Okay, perfect. Hello. So start again. My name's Tom. I work at Screen and Film School in Brighton. You might have heard of us previously as Brighton Film School, and I'm going to give you a presentation today, mostly about film industry careers, the kinds of things that you might find yourself working as if you do go into the film industry practically, as well as some more things if you're thinking progression routes, maybe university, some advice and guidance on things like that and portfolios too. So just going to start sharing my screen, which means I can not see anybody. So my colleague Georgia will probably interrupt me if there's any issues. But yes, as I mentioned before, one second. Yes, there we go. I'm going to be talking about film industry careers, what film school is, and any portfolio advice as well. So I always start this presentation just by asking if anyone's got a Netflix account, Amazon Prime account, or they're currently watching a TV show, been to the cinema recently. Can't see anybody, but I'm assuming the answer for pretty much everybody here is going to be a yes. And whenever you're watching something, Netflix, or you go to the cinema, the credits start to roll at the end. When you get those hundreds of names flashing past you at the end, too quick for anybody to realistically, read them. Those credits are all people that have been working specifically in that role in the film industry, whether it's something very niche on set or one of the bigger roles like director or screenwriter, etc. So many different jobs are out there in film and TV, and the UK is a massive hub for that as well. So here's just a couple of stats before we get started on the career side of things on how the film industry is doing, at least in this country. So there's over 15,500 film and video production companies in the UK at the moment. So that could be anywhere from, a small crew of five or so people who have their own independent company, all the way up to the really big ones as well. They've got hundreds of people on board. Lots and lots of different companies out there hiring people to work in the industry. We're still, because of the pandemic, some of the stats from 2020 are a bit skewed. So we've got some 2019 stats here as well. Spending on UK production increased to £3.6 billion in 2019, just in the UK alone. Worldwide, internationally, it's more than that, obviously. And as well, a great statistic for the UK's success in the film and TV industry, UK films earned $10 billion of the global box office revenue in 2019, which is a quarter of the whole market. It was $40 billion worldwide, and 10 billion of that came from productions that were made in this country. As well, things like high-end TV. So if you think of your more prestige TV shows, maybe something on like HBO, Breaking Bad, things in that vein, the higher-end TV. In 2019, there was £1.29 billion spent on that as well. Being in the south of England is really helpful for us too. You're home to lots of iconic studios. Pinewood is always a massive one. You've got, most people will know that one as the place where the Harry Potter studio tour takes place, but there's lots of other sound stages there as well. In fact, last year, Disney placed a 10-year tenancy on one of the sound stages there. So every day up until the end of this decade, Disney is going to be shooting things, whether it's the new Marvel or Star Wars or whatever live action remake they're going to do next. Disney's, always utilizing that space at Pinewood. Same goes for Shepperton Studios. Netflix put a very similar tenancy down. So until the end of this decade at Shepperton, Netflix is going to be making stuff there as well. So loads and loads of really prolific, iconic studios in the south of England, which are right on our doorstep here. And also just considering things, how the creative industries did during, the pandemic, a lot of them did suffer, but film and TV got bigger. And I think a great statistic to illustrate that is Netflix's global subscriber base. It grew nearly 28 million in the first 3 quarters even of 2020. So that's 9 months of 2020. If you do 28 million times £10 a month times 12 months a year, that is a whole lot of money that Netflix brought in on top of what they already were. And all of these film and TV production companies and studios, they want to be reinvesting this money. And that is why it's such an exciting time for film and TV industry if you are looking to go into it. So I'll show this diagram again towards the end, but this is just a sample of the kinds of jobs that you might find in terms of the film production. Like I said, there's lots on here, and I won't go into depth on many of them in the main presentation, but it's just to give you a bit of a taste. So I'll come back to that later. But first job role I want to go over in film and TV is screenwriter. So I'm sure you all know what a screenwriter does. They write and develop scripts for TV and film, either original or adapted. You might have had some experience writing creatively, maybe in English at GCSE or things like that, but a screenwriter does have to have a bit more of a specific set of skills when it comes to telling their story, because when you write a script and you hand someone your script, you want them to be able to envision a couple of things. Setting and tone are really important, but also filming logistics. If you're writing a script for a film that you know isn't going to have a very big budget, and you write in this gigantic action chase scene that just is not feasible for you to make, then the script isn't really worth so much when it comes to actually putting it to screen. So you need to be able to remember at the same time what the scope of the film you're writing is and how feasible it might be for filming. Screenwriter also needs to be prepared to get told to rewrite a lot of times, lots of drafts for work. In fact, a lot of screenwriters even end up on set when things are being shot. You know, you never really know what a script might play out like until you're on set, and some things might not work. So screenwriters might be there rewriting scenes or changing dialogue or actions and things like that for the actors on set, so that they can then get it right when they're filming. Screenwriting as well, there's a couple different ways to enter this sort of line of work. Obviously, what most people might think of as a screenwriter would be someone that is freelancing, so they write all of their scripts and they pitch them to producers once they've finished it, so that then a producer can then help them secure financing, things like that. But people that sort of get prolific at screenwriting actually have a really great opportunity to get given work in advance. So lots of times producers will acquire the rights to books or remaking old films, things like that, and they will hire screenwriters, pay them up front to write the screenplay for that, because the studio needs to have a screenplay before they can really move forward, before they can hire a director, etc. So it's not all just the myth of the starving artist screenwriter who has 10 scripts in the backlog and is desperately trying to get people to make them. There's absolutely ways to get yourself money in advance before you've even written a word. And just a couple of things we suggest reading wise. This is the only slide I'll do this for, but Save the Cat by Blake Snyder and Invisible Ink by Brian McDonald are two books that we recommend, which can just give you a bit of advice and help you get started with screenwriting if it's something you haven't done too much of before. Moving on to the big one, director. Directors are obviously sort of the head of the set. I'm sure you all know what a director does as well. They work mainly with the actors and they create the overall vision for the film. I've got a couple of different examples of directors on this right-hand side here. So at the top, I've got a director called Terrence Malick. He is a director who nowadays is quite prolific for pretty much not even shooting with a script at all. He will just let the actors and the camera crew go off for a day. He might very vaguely tell them what he wants from them, but no dialogue or anything written, just go and shoot. And then at the end of the day, they might come back with 8 hours worth of footage and he might not even use it. But he constructs his films from very, very loose narratives that kind of get made up as they go along. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got David Fincher there down at the bottom on the set of Gone Girl. He is a bit like a dictator on a film set. He really demands that the crew and the actors get everything pinpoint perfect before he moves on. Lots of actors have come out and said that it's quite grueling working on his sets, having to do hundreds of takes of certain scenes until you get it exactly how he wants it. But then in the middle, I've got Greta Gerwig, who I sort of consider to be a bit of a middle ground between the two. She knows she has a script, she knows she has a story to tell, but at the same time, she is open to things like improv and letting actors try something different. She might even change, the actual official screenplay if the actors come up with some dialogue that's better than what she had originally written. So there's no one way to be a director. There's no one way that's more valid than any other. But all of them will produce films in some way, and the majority of directors do make their start at film schools. It's just a great environment for them to play with their ideas and sort of have it with the risks lowered, essentially. So lots of directors do come out of film school. Now, moving more into the background side of things, production design and art department, and you're going to hear me say this for every role, but massively important in terms of the actual look of a film and keeping the audience engaged. You don't really want the audience to pick up that this job has even been done. And that's, like I say, the case for most of the things I'm going to talk about from here on. So production design and art department are physically building the world, whether they are building sets on sound stages or decorating and putting props in pre-existing locations. There's always going to be things like concept art sketches, big builds, One of my favorite examples that we always bring up in that bottom left corner there, that is from a film called The Life Aquatic by Wes Anderson. This scene that they built this big set for, basically the film is set on a ship, and there's this 3 or 4 minute single take that takes you through every single room in this ship. So there's actors within it, carrying out their daily tasks on the ship, and they had to build a ship to scale. They had to build this giant, giant set that was essentially the shape of a ship cut in half, so that you could see everything going on inside it. Every room had to be decorated fully. It had to be safe and feasible for the actors to move around. Uh, so much design went into that, and that's only for just a couple of minutes of the film. That's a massive example of production design, a really big achievement in it. But everything that you watch has production design and art department behind it. I feel people sometimes forget that everything will have all of these crews working on it, no matter what it is, even if it's an advert, set in a normal family home, or a McDonald's advert. There will have been a production design team making sure that the look behind where the actors are is realistic. And like I say, if this is done poorly, then it's quite easy for the audience to get sucked out of the experience, which is obviously something you don't want. Quite similar role, but more so for the actors rather than the sets, is costume and makeup. These two departments do work very closely together, but they help to establish characters, make them believable. You need a consistent costume, and you need consistent styling for actors and characters when they're on screen. Massive thing that costume can help do is show period and setting. So you might have a film set in the 1800s. Obviously, you don't want characters wearing jeans and stuff like that. They just didn't back then. So you want some more period appropriate clothing, and that's where a costume team can come in. But also makeup is a massive part of film. Now, these two examples on screen are more extreme. So you've got Jennifer Lawrence down there in the bottom left in the X-Men films. That's a lot of prosthetic makeup that she's got on to really change her look. But you've also got Mad Hatter from the recent Alice in Wonderland that Tim Burton made. Again, more extreme example, lots of makeup there, but every actor on screen has makeup applied to them. And these things just need to be done consistently. Someone's got to be keeping track of the clothes that the actors are wearing and how their hair is styled, the makeup that they put on them every day on set, just to maintain continuity and believability among the audience as well. So really important job there too. Cinematography, so camera and lighting, essentially. Being a director of photography does mean that you're going to be at the forefront of the action on set. So down on the bottom right there, I've just given an example. That's Roger Deakins. He's one of England's great cinematographers. He's now a two-time Oscar winner, but he had waited a very long time to win an award, an Academy Award before then. But he's prolific. The whole practice of color correction and color grading sort of originated with him in a way, with A Brother Where Art Thou, the film that he was the cinematographer on for the Coen brothers. And the look of that film really changed the game for cinematography going forward up to today. Being at the forefront of action on set means that having a director come to you with the vision of what the film might need to look like, the director of photography then needs to talk to the lighting crews and to the camera crews to tell them the appropriate equipment to be using and the techniques to be using so that that can be achieved. The texture and the way that light behaves, shadows, things like that, all things that the cinematographer needs to keep a close eye on. So up in the top right, I've got a screenshot from Birdman. That's a film with some incredible cinematography, but that's all based, in the real world. People often forget, I think, that cinematography is a job that is needing to be taken up on every film. So you've got up in the top left from Finding Dory, there's this octopus, there's still a cinematographer even for animation. The way that light behaves nowadays in animation is super, super important. If you go back and look at the original Toy Story, that film, because the technology for animation just wasn't quite where it is now, it doesn't look so great today. And now that we have a better grasp on how to animate lighting and shadows and textures, it's really important that we get that right. So a cinematographer, when that octopus moves one of its tentacles to gesture in the film, the light needs to behave properly, otherwise the audience starts to feel that something's slightly off. Same thing goes for, in the bottom left, that live action remake they did of The Jungle Book, I think 5 or so years ago now. That had the only real thing in that is the child actor there. He was on set just with blue screens, and then everything else was made with CGI in post production. But there still had to be a cinematographer A on set when they were shooting the scenes with the child actor, and then B when they were creating the CGI, so that everything, light and all of that, behaved naturally and wouldn't be a distraction for the audience. So absolutely vital role cinematography, incredibly fun one as well, getting to play with different lights and cameras while you're test shooting and finding how you're going to create the specific look you want. um, Moving on, so the kind of teams that work underneath a director of photography is grip, is a technical role, basically high level of experience. It's a sort of fancy way of saying camera operator. So the camera ops are obviously when you're the head grip, you're sort of the person leading that team on making the sort of decisions. So if director wants a tracking shot, you're going to decide what kind of track or support for the camera you might need, whether that is a physical track on the floor, or you might want to get a crane out, a jib, uh, all sorts of things, a dolly. There's lots of different equipment that you can mount your camera on to achieve the kind of shot that you're going for. It's really important that you have a good grasp on health and safety with this role, though, because you can see in the top left there that camera operator is literally dangling off the edge of a building. There's lots of other heavy equipment going on here as well. There's just lots of things that you need to make sure that you're on top of to make sure that you can achieve the shot, but also in a safe way as well. So really important. Obviously, the camera is the main focus almost on set, capturing everything that the team wants while they're before they can get to the editing stage. Similarly, for the equivalent sort of a grip for lighting is a gaffer. So a gaffer is an on-set electrician who understands light. You can see that image in the middle there, just how much equipment they use, just how much they manipulate lighting on set, the way that they can bounce it or change the hue using things like gels, making sure that the positioning of the lights is perfect as well, so it never gets picked up on camera. Everything looks natural. Everything you watch, at least that's live action, has been lit artificially in some way. A show like Mad Men is set in office buildings and it's just shot on a soundstage, but it's still lit as though there was natural sunlight coming through and things like that. So lighting is a massively, massively important role on set. And again, health and safety is huge as well. If you're shooting a scene in the rain or near the ocean or something like that, you're still going to need lighting throughout, but at the same time, having electricity running, you don't want to fry the whole crew. So you want to make sure that you are very up to date on health and safety laws. And lots of people that come from maybe science and maths backgrounds find light really interesting and really a fun place to be, because there's a lot of numbers and science that goes into like wattage and volts and how powerful a light might be. Really, really popular sort of subset to get into if you are interested. So moving to a job role that's kind of in between the two in terms of production and post-production. So sound recording, the production side of sound recording, massively important for people like boom operators to capture the dialogue, while you're on set. That is really the hardest thing to recreate in post-production. So on set, sound recording is really essentially that's the main focus. Get the dialogue recorded, make sure that you can easily sync it up with the footage once it's been shot. But then also in post-production, you've got jobs like Foley. And Foley's a massively important job as well, because that's basically recreating any sounds they couldn't get on set. So the example I always give for this one is, you can see in the bottom right there, it looks like a Victorian set film. You've got boom operator capturing dialogue. Let's say the scene is taking place in the back of a horse-drawn carriage. So there's two characters being driven somewhere in this horse-drawn carriage. They're sat in the back having a conversation. That boom operator needs to get the dialogue. They absolutely have to make sure that the dialogue is clean and can be used in the final edit. They might also mic up the characters in a way that where the microphone isn't going to be able to be seen whilst shooting. If you've ever seen Singing in the Rain, there's quite a lot of jokes about how they tried to hide the microphone when they're recording the dialogue on set, and so that's also something that people will do for sound recording to make sure they get it. But then moving into post-production, that horse-drawn carriage is going to be making lots of noise. If you think about the sound of the horse's hooves on the cobblestone, that sound needs to be at least in the background somewhere when you're watching. Otherwise, your ears are going to notice that something's missing. the phrase that the Foley artists and anyone in sound in film likes to use is that your ears will be offended before your eyes. So visually, if the camera quality might not have been as good, you can tend to forgive that as a viewer. But when the audio is wrong, that's when it starts to really grate on you. So the Foley artist comes in and recreates those noises. So if you look in that top left there, they've got lots of different types of tile on this Foley stage. They will just try and recreate the sound by any means necessary. They might hit some rocks against a specific tile or the two rocks together. Anything that they can do to recreate sound. It's a really fun job for figuring out what sounds sound like something else, basically. We have one of our lecturers, when he does a sound design and Foley workshop, he always starts with this video of, is it the sound of the rain or is it bacon frying? So he plays this clip. I think it's 5 audio clips with no footage. It just goes, plays 5-10 seconds of all of them, and it asks you, do you think this one is the sound of the rain or do you think it's the sound of bacon sizzling? Plays through all 5 of them. People will say, I think that one was the rain, but this one was definitely bacon, and people make their guesses. All of them were bacon. Absolutely none of them were the rain. But the sound of bacon sizzling, if you've got no visuals to pair it with, it does sound a lot like the rain, and it tricks your brain into thinking that it's the sound of something else. It's a really interesting job. There's loads of different creative ways you can get around lack of sound on set. So another famous example would be in Fight Club. There's a lot of punching and sounds on that film. Obviously, they couldn't actually hit each other on set, so the Foley artists for that film were like breaking watermelons with sledgehammers and ridiculous stuff like that. Cracking celery to make it sound like bones were cracking and things like that. Really fun creative job, and also really transferable as well. If you're in sound design, lots of other things are needing it nowadays, including things like video games. So every video game you'll play will have sound design at play, and there's a really interesting field to go into as well. So it's a great transferable field. And then the final job role I'll go over for the presentation is editing. So editors play a really, really big part in the final product of a film, in revisioning the script. They work closely with the director in pretty much all levels of production. Some editors might be on set editing scenes as they're being, fed to them the camera feed, just so that the director can get a feel of how things are playing out. But obviously, the big part that directors play is that editors play is once principal photography has wrapped and they are then sort of in an editing suite. You can see that lovely big editing suite that the guy used for Avatar up there, where he's got a great edit board in front of him, really great technology to help him edit. But the director usually clashes with the editor at this stage of production, because an editor has to be a bit brutal, and because they need to have a natural instinct for pace and rhythm and structure. Those things might clash with what the director was envisioning for the film, and they might have to say, I'm sorry, but we need to cut this scene entirely, or this line of dialogue, we need to make a cut just a few seconds earlier because otherwise it lingers just a bit too long. And they usually have to be really firm and tell the director that ultimately they know best, because getting the right edit is so important to whether a film hits its mark. If you notice that the editing is slightly off and things like that, that really does distract for people watching a film. Same goes for all of these jobs I've mentioned. You never want the audience to actually notice and recognize these things, because if they do, it usually means that you haven't done a great job at it and it's distracting them. So you want to get the edit nailed on as perfectly as you can, and an editor just needs to be able to stand their ground against the director when making the big decisions. So I went over probably 7 or 8 different roles there. Not a lot in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, those are quite big name ones, but so many I didn't go over. Under directing there, you've got first, second, and third assistant directors. Under director of photography, you've got focus puller, which is someone that literally just pulls the focus on a camera. Right hand hands to the director of photographer, and they just got to make sure on their cue that they stand with a Bluetooth focus pulling device, and they just twist focus all day long. That's what they do. But it's so important that someone's there to do that. So many other things as well. Locations and managing that, or scouting for locations as well, is hugely important. It didn't even really go into the business side of things. So you've got production, when you've got production managers, production secretaries, all things like that. You've got in the art department kind of side of things, you've got prop masters, where their whole job is to just make props and make sure there's things like that. And there's a whole team, if you design a set, you're going to have to construct a set as well. So there's going to be managers and people working in that crew too. In post production, I sort of maybe gave you a bit of taste on animation when I was talking about cinematography, but that's a massive part of the film industry nowadays. Visual effects as well. If anybody saw Parasite, I think it's a great example of how visual effects are in everything now, and you probably just won't notice because in Parasite, it's a two-story house most of the film takes place in, but they built from scratch the first floor, and then the second floor is entirely visual effects. It doesn't actually exist up there. But you would never notice that until you actually saw some photos from behind the scenes. Visual effects are in everything from, the productions like that all the way up to your big Marvel films and Star Wars where there's lots of visual effects going on. So many different job roles you can find yourself in TV and film production. And there's even more than this. This is just basically what fits nicely onto a spider diagram. So a quick note on who we are. So obviously, as I mentioned, we're Screen and Film School. We offer a couple of different undergraduate degrees. So we've got the BA Honours Filmmaking, which we've been doing for about 15 years now. And then you've got our new degree, which is launching next year, which is in film business and production. So if you were interested in more of a business approach to things, maybe being behind the scenes, getting deals done, managing the budget, telling people where to be and when, stuff like that, business and production would be a good specialist course for you there as well. We specialize really in the film industry's needs and demands. All of the courses that we've got, we have asked directly our industry partners what they're looking for from people graduating film school and wanting to go into the industry to work. And basically what they've said is they want people that are multi-skilled. So we will help you learn lots and lots of different skills in all different sectors of the production space, but also people that are specialists. So when it comes to the end of your third year on the filmmaking degree, you will then be a specific specialist in a certain thing, whether that's camera and lighting or if that's editing, sound, lots of different options for you. We help people find sort of their little corner of the industry that they want to work in. We've got campuses in Brighton, obviously. You may have seen some of our buildings around. I think GB Met, one of your campuses, is quite close to the London Road site that we have. We also just opened this year in Birmingham and Manchester too. Everything on the courses is taught by industry professionals, whether they're people that are still currently working in their specialism in the film industry, or if they've worked there for a long time and have now decided that teaching is more so where they want to be. We've also got great facilities. We just opened a brand new film studio out in Bevendine. It's 11,000 square feet and has 2 brand new sets. And we've also got multiple buildings around the city already. Everything we've got as well, from the equipment that we can provide you in terms of cameras, sound, equipment, editing, software, all of those, it's all industry standard as well. So you can get to grips with these things while you're with us rather than when you go into the film industry afterwards as well. So we are a bit different from a traditional university. You are mostly going to be while you're with us doing practical work. So that is basically our philosophy for it, is saying that we want you to get hands-on with the film industry as much as possible, and the best way to do that is to keep working practically. So lots of the course, I think it's about 70 to 75% of the course is practical. There's still some written work required. It's just impossible to go without. But if you are interested in getting hands-on for most of the time, that's what we do here. We also give you budgets to fund your short films. So in your first year, you're going to be making 2 films. So you get £200 per film for that. You get $250 per film in year 2 to make another 2 films. And then in third year, when you're going for your graduate shoots, that's when you get £300 per student. So let's say you get to third year and you've specialized as a director, you get £300 to put towards your shoot. Then you also have an editor on board, cinematographer, some camera crew, lighting crew. You can end up with a really nice, healthy crew of 8, 9, maybe 10 people and have £2,500 to maybe £3,000 to shoot your film with. And then don't forget, we've also got the equipment and facilities already. So if you want to shoot on one of our sets, then you won't have to pay for location. You're never going to need to pay for cameras or things like that while you're with us as well. But you might want to pay for actors, or if you want to shoot on location, you may need to pay for that too. So all of that budget is absolutely yours to do what you want with. We want to take away some of the financial restraint when it comes to making a film. And we also offer funds to help submit your films into festivals. So a great thing to do with your films once you've made them is start trying to play them at film festivals. So if you want to submit to Sundance, we probably won't give you the money for that because it's the most popular film festival in the world and also costs like £8,000. so we can't really do that. But smaller things, local film festivals like Cinecity in Brighton, or any short film festivals, things like that, we can give you the money to help you get into that, and then you can start decorating your poster for your film with all of the awards and festivals you've played at as well. So, portfolio advice as well is if you are considering applying for a filmmaking degree, whether that's with us or somebody else, portfolio is something that we ask for. Essentially, it's not an interview that we do here. We do a portfolio review and then also some workshops alongside that as well. So you get to come in and just talk with someone about the work that you've made up to now. It sounds like the course that most of you will be on is absolutely great, and the things that you'll be making would go great to helping you form a portfolio. But I also just really want to nail down that a portfolio can be anything. Obviously, things like short films, music videos, factual content, anything you've made visually is great to show. But you can also have it be any writing you've had to do on film, any still photography. We love seeing photography. It can show your eye for composition really well. Any artwork you might have made or concept. Storyboards are really great as well, or we've had people come in and just lay pages and pages of storyboards on the floor and talk through a scene that they weren't able to shoot, but they had the idea for as well. So make sure you're ready to discuss your work when you take it to portfolio review, but don't worry about creating it strictly from one thing or another. It can be a really diverse thing that you show us. If you are wanting to prepare for applying for university, you can inquire on our website if you want to be added to our mailing list for future events. So that includes open days. We've got one coming up on the 13th of November, and then we've got one on the 27th as well, and then one in December too. So there's a good amount of opportunities before Christmas time to come and see us in person. You can see those brand new film studios I was talking about. And we've even got a portfolio advice clinic happening next Thursday as well. So if you want to get on the mailing list for that, you can, if you are worried about creating a portfolio, you can come along and see what some of our current students submitted as portfolios and how they talk through it as well. Also, just keep making things, keep creating, whether that's for your college course or just for fun. It's all completely valid for creating a portfolio, and anything you make doesn't matter how you feel the quality is. It's great to include just to show off your ideas. Keep watching films as well. Every film you'll ever see has stolen it from somewhere else, all of its ideas probably. So you're going to pick up whether you watch the classics or anything modern. It's important to just keep consuming films and learn about techniques or ideas that you might get from watching them. Work towards your target grades as well. Us, like most other film schools, have the UCAS requirement. Ours is 64 UCAS points. So if you are interested, it's good to make sure you work towards your target grades to get enough UCAS points to be accepted onto the course. But above all else, just keep your passion and your enthusiasm alive. Keep your love for the craft there, and there shouldn't be problems for you going forward. You'll set yourself up really well. So that's the end of the presentation. So I'll stop sharing this screen. But what I'm going to show you now is one of our graduate films. So it's just under 15 minutes. It's called Love in Vain, and it was made by our third years, I think 2 years ago now. And it is about a vampire who uses a Tinder-like dating app to find her victims. It's got a bit of a content warning. There's a bit of violence, some strong language, and a few mild sexual references. So if anyone's uncomfortable with that, just to let you know, that's there. But I'll start sharing the tab now. And yeah, if there are any issues, please do pipe up and let me know.
It's not playing yet, Tom.
Hello again. Am I back now?
You are. We can hear you, but
Right.
yeah, it's not playing yet.
I'll try give the video one more go, and if it doesn't work, I can share the link with you all, and you can watch it in your own time if you're interested.
Yeah, all good.
Hi.
Hi, you okay?
Yeah. You alright?
Yeah, good. So, Mr. Wright.
Josh.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Don't worry, I don't bite.
Can I get you guys some drinks?
Yeah. What you feeling, wine?
Yeah? Red?
I like your style. We'll have a bottle of Benjamin Malbec, please.
Sure thing.
This is a really nice place, by the way.
Yeah.
No, the decor's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Would you like to order some food?
Oh, yes, I will have a veggie, please.
I'll have the steak, medium rare.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Want to know a fun little fact?
Sure.
That painting over there?
Ah, Love in Vain. Cecil Green, 1928.
Ooh, art expert, huh?
Novice at best. You were saying?
Yeah. So, when Green was 14, his mother was found dead, floating across the coast of Brighton. It was a suspected suicide. Allegedly, she'd been found entwined in a secret affair, and this led to her jumping from the pier. As he witnessed her body being fished from the water, he noticed...
Her wet nightgown wrapped around her head.
Yeah. This naturally led to the theory that that trauma was a direct influence on his work.
Ah, a theory that Green actively denied.
Really?
Apparently so. It's quite sad though, the painting. I mean, the idea of being so intimate with someone but having to conceal your true self, it's quite heartbreaking, really. Don't you think? So, what do you do for a living?
I work nights in a pharmaceutical warehouse in town.
Ooh, nights. I bet that's killer. I bet you feel like death come the end of the week.
Yeah, you don't know half of it.
Actually, I'll tell you what, my job's somewhat related to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a vet. Challenging job, man.
How come?
Well, if I'm honest, I can't really stand the sight of blood, so...
A vet that can't
Yeah.
stand blood.
Someone's a bit hungry.
Yeah. So, why'd you do it?
I don't know, I suppose I just kind of like saving lives. Oh, even if it is just a hamster. It's rewarding, but you do get some really crazy people come through.
Oh, go on.
Oh, right, okay, so last week this guy comes in, bald guy, big unit of a man. He's built like a brick shithouse. And he's come in to get his cat neutered.
Right.
Russian blue, he's cute, adorable.
Yeah.
He's walking towards us, towering above us, and I'm thinking, say your prayers, kid, because this is it, this is the end. Him and little Meow Mix here have come to snuff your lights. I was ready. And he says to us, in the deepest, huskiest voice, he goes, could you put him in a cattery with a female for, you know, one last... What the fuck do you even say to that? Oh, sorry, sir, we don't really offer the brothel option these days. I'm telling you, it was bizarre.
Can you grab me the salt from that table?
Yeah, sure thing. There you go.
Thanks.
Christ, it's practically walking off the plate. Do you want me to complain or something?
No, it's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Not having any then?
Nah, I'm good, thanks.
How come? You did recommend it.
Maybe later.
Sure. I mean, it's a pretty good wine. It tastes good.
I'm good.
Fair enough. You're going to be chicken about it. I suppose I'll just...
Did you just call me a chicken?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Who's the chicken now, bitch? Fuck.
Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You sure? I mean, you seem a little flustered.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So, get many cute dogs in your place?
Dog lover, eh?
Uh-huh.
Actually, had a couple of good boys come into the veterinary not too long ago. Yeah. Okay. He was a little devil to begin with, but I think that's only because he didn't really know us.
Uh-huh.
Looks very intimidating. But I think it's just
Sorry, nature calls.
what again?
Yeah, waterfalls don't stop.
You all right in there, mate? Oh, dirty bastards. Dirty bastards.
Nah, you're lying.
No, honestly, they were in the cubicle, and all you can hear was, oh,
I'm sorry, that again?
oh.
Well, the night is still young. Do you want to head back to my place?
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing, like, I really should get home. I've got to be up early in the morning for work and whatnot, so...
Well, do you want to exchange numbers? Maybe meet up again?
You know, I would, but, look, I think you're a really nice girl, but you're just not quite what I'm looking for, you know?
What do you mean? Did I say something? Do something?
No, it's, I was just looking for someone a bit, well, shorter.
You what?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So I hoped everyone enjoyed that. That was just an example of a film that some of our students have made previously. I do have a few minutes now. If anyone does have any questions whatsoever, more than happy to answer.
Do you have a link to your open day information so people can register?
Absolutely, yeah. So like I mentioned, we've got one on the 13th of November and also one on the 27th too. Let me just pull up the chat. So you can sign up to them there. Just make sure that you look for the Brighton campus and make sure it's an undergraduate one, because we do have open evenings for the level 3 diploma that we're running from next year. So we don't want people to come along if they're looking for university level to that one. So just make sure it says undergraduate.
Does anyone have any questions for Tom? I mean, you can, if you're interested in finding out more about what it's like studying at the Screen and Film School, the best thing to do always is to go to an open day, and then you can ask lots of questions while you're there. I mean, I'm assuming you've probably got some students supporting the open day and you can talk to students.
Yeah, absolutely. You can come along to the nice brand new studio out in Bevendine, see some students there as well, or play with some of the kit, and ask questions about what it's like to study with us.